All right, I'm back. Kind of. I don't feel like my brain has... Was I good at this before? I kind of like waking up like with amnesia, where I'm like, who am I?
Yeah. You were all right. I mean, you had the job, and I think
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Why
it,
did I have the bull, Bart? Like, why did I have the bull?
Yeah. They let you come in here. Your pass card worked and still works. So, yeah, you're okay.
Dude, can I share a little...
No.
Yeah, I will anyways.
Yeah.
Little insecurity.
Okay.
It kind of reminded me of dying. It didn't remind me, but it made me think about my mortality. Just because when you're... So I really unplugged, dude.
Oh, I see.
I really unplugged. I just didn't... I didn't want to go online. I was trying to be very much in the moment. I would take a few pictures. I posted a few things, to the Instagram account. But I waited until the end of the trip to post like basically real pictures. Follow at JD Bunkis. And I did not tweet. I didn't follow sports. The time difference was excruciating for following sports. Yeah. It truly was. Like you could not stay in the loop. We woke up, my brother and I, because he's a huge Ravens fan, we woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning after drinking the actual same night. We had a little nap and woke up at 2 and we're up till 5 a.m. watching Ravens Chiefs, only to have him get his heart destroyed, obliterated by Isaiah Likely's big toe at 5 o'clock in the morning, right? We watch some NFL. Obviously, we watch as much football as you can, but I cannot believe the dedication of people who watch North American sports in Europe. I have a whole new perspective to it. All the people that listen to Leafs Talk, all the people who listen to this show, like I'm enamored by you. I can't believe that you do this. I can't believe you pull this off. But I was out of it. I was out of the time zone. I was out of the country. I was not really tweeting. I wasn't really posting. And it's just like life moves on.
Oh, yeah. No, we didn't.
That's what I mean.
There were not like people outside of the building here being like, where's Bunkis?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No one cared. And I thought.
I noticed you were gone. I was like, why aren't my ears ringing?
Yeah, exactly. Dude.
Oh, yeah.
And then every once in a while, I'd get the classic messages I always get, which is, are you fired? I'd go, no, I mentioned many times I'm on vacation. Actually, if you look at my Instagram stories, you'll see like I'm in a city that's clearly not Toronto. I think that's like, I never posted one that looked like it could be in Toronto. Like we don't have, well, actually we have Casa Loma. So we do have a castle. My mistake.
But I was going to say, like, how much like scaffolding was there on buildings or people stuffed and like frustrated because they couldn't move around?
Dude, I'm going to talk a little bit about some eye openers from vacation, maybe a story or two in the second half because I want to get to sports. But yeah, I'm glad to be back, okay? I'm still alive. Witness me. Anyways. Okay, so one of the biggest things that happened while I was away kind of bookended a little bit yesterday. Well, it didn't really bookend, but for me and my vacation, which was Bowden Francis for the second time in a few weeks, missed a no-hitter because of a home run that was broken up in the 9th inning. So what exactly is happening here with Bowden Francis, by your estimation? Because I want to do a couple of the big stories that, I missed. I want to go over a couple of Leafs things that happened just very recently. But I do think that the Bowden Francis piece of this Blue Jays season, if this is real, like, did he just replace what we thought Alek Manoah was going to be? Like, are we already looking at a real ceiling play? Are you buying this? Like, what do you... I don't know what to make of it because the stuff that he has doesn't blow you away. Even yesterday, like, it's just, he doesn't throw hard.
91. I mean, he was a couple miles an hour below his average fastball velocity yesterday. So
he doesn't have a, like, what's his big, like, his
splitter.
Pitch? Yeah, the splitter is nice, but it's not...
he's figured it out. I mean, that's been the number one change. It was like, it was curveball, fastball before, and curveball is basically not a part of his repertoire anymore.
Did he get it from Gossman?
The splitter? Yeah, I mean, I think they've helped each other, and it seems like everybody's pretty tight in that rotation. There's been some sharing of information, no doubt. Yeah, it's definitely bookended your vacation, because I think the first text I sent to you while you were in Europe was like, Bowden Francis 3 outs away from a no-hitter.
Shut up.
I'm in Europe.
Yeah.
I don't have to talk about the Blue Jays or care about them.
I actually would like to say, as much as I'm starting this with Blue Jays stuff, and I did watch the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Getting away from the Blue Jays was genuinely the greatest gift I could have ever been given, and one of the greatest in my entire life. Like, not having to track the day-to-days or pretend like I care about Spencer Horowitz getting hot for 3 days, was brilliant. But the Bowden Francis thing is real. That's why I'm starting with it.
Well, I mean, it's really happened.
Yeah.
But yes, the Davis Schneider 30 games also happened at the end of last season. But I'm not comparing the two. It's different too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think when you're a position player, it's harder to figure out what your weaknesses are in a smaller sample. When you're a pitcher, all you have to do is just look at what he did in the previous 5 starts before his 6th start, where he's now allowed 1 run in 4 of those, or sorry, 1 hit in 4 of those 6 starts. You have no choice. I have no choice but to realize there's a reality here, right? Like, the sample is so big that, and it's not a season, but it's against so many different teams, right? There are a couple of Angels teams in there, but he also faced like a really good Phillies team where he didn't one-hit them, but he only allowed them, like, it was a quality start against the Phillies. And yeah, that was during Kyle Schwarber's, he was basically using a cricket bat at the plate where he hit 4 home runs in a 2-game series. Yeah. He got victimized by Kyle Schwarber. It happens. No, there's something real happening here. He's 1,000,000 feet tall. He doesn't throw hard, but you look at some of the baseball savant stuffs, like the extension is what's helping him an extreme amount. Fastball is not. It's one of the lower velocity fastballs among starters in all of baseball. But the effectiveness, like its run value, is in the upper percentile of major league pitchers. And that comes fully on the strength of his physical size. And he's throwing strikes. He's got people geared up to hit 91. And then when he throws the 85-mile-an-hour splitter, they're swinging over the top of it. Only 1 strikeout yesterday, but he's generally struck out people over the span as well.
Yeah.
He's at least part of, like, there's no question he's in the rotation to start 2025. And I think the expectation should be like a middle of the rotation guy. So but it is also possible. It is possible that he's more than that. I wouldn't say that it's likely.
Okay, so yeah, that was going to be my follow-up. Is like, what do you actually think he is? Because I think that he... Yesterday was sort of the example for me. I'm really not trying to diminish it because it was awesome, right? Like, it really was. And
that one, if it was 6 starts that looked like that, though, you'd be like, oh, that's kind of fluky.
That's what I was going to say.
Like, a guy got through 8 innings, striking out 1.
Strikeout. That was the thing with yesterday, was it was 1 strikeout. There was an unreal play by Davis Schneider where he was like, I'm Varsho now.
Yes.
He's like, Varsho, this is the only other guy I've seen make that play. And
better catch, considering the way he's hit.
Well, I was going to say
the
only thing, too, was Varsho always does it with, like, real athletic look to those plays. Schneider's was just what I think it would look like if most of us made that play, where it was just a guy barreling into the wall.
That was a guy that was like, I'm protecting a no-hitter, but also, like, I better give my all at all times because I'm running out of time in the Major League of Baseball. So, like, if I just physically get smushed, flattened against an outfield wall, I don't care. I'm running through it to catch this baseball.
Yeah, he absolutely had to do it because at this point, my understanding is that his major selling point for being a major leaguer right now is that he's best friends with 2 of the guys that are looking like more major leaguers.
That are going to be on the roster.
It's way more fun with the, like, it wasn't the 2 Musketeers, you know? It wasn't the 2 amigos. It was the 3. It's nice to have 3. You want to be able to keep the 3. But yeah, for me, he looks great. And this is a major piece for this Blue Jays team. Like, if this ends up happening, you know how he came to the team, right?
Yeah, it was in the Trevor Richards, Rowdy Tellez deal.
Yeah, because I was looking that up yesterday. I went, how did they get this guy?
Yeah, it was, and guess what? Rowdy Tellez is nothing.
No, it was nothing. But there was a moment there. There was a moment
where you overpaid for a middle reliever?
Well, and especially since Rowdy was the sort of bat that all of a sudden when he got hot with the Brewers for a little stretch there, people went, oh, is this a guy? I will give you credit. You never wavered.
No.
There was never a moment where you bought the Rowdy Tellez hype. Yeah. I did. I ate out of the trash can.
Yeah. And Twins fans can't imagine that Trevor Richards ever had value because he lasted. Dude, I think he was the Brad Hand for them.
I saw 2 outings for him, and he got absolutely tattooed, and I was laughing.
God, I wish I had the stats. It was 11 innings. He had like 15 wild pitches or something.
Yeah, no, it was
literally
terrible.
It was the singing frog thing with Brad Hand. Remember, the Blue Jays went out and Brad Hand single-handedly kept them from the playoffs in 2021 because he was yet another relief arm they acquired after Richards and after Simber at the deadline, and he was so bad.
So
they kept
terrible.
trotting him out there, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's."
They thought he
cooked."
was going to be like Jason Grilly 2.0.
Yeah.
It was like the old guy that was going to come in and give
It's
you
like,
something.
how
I was like, no.
does anybody think this guy's good? And then, of course, had a more career to go. Like the next year with the Mets, he was really, really good. And that was the deal with Trevor Richards. No, it's one of the if Ross Atkins has to put his resume up and defend himself this offseason, how high up the list of trades do you think he puts that one, that he acquired a guy with that amount of service
this would
time
be
and
huge.
and that kind of control that's at least starting the season in the rotation? The Blue Jays have 4 starters in pen to start 2025. Now, I'm not saying he's going to last the whole season, because maybe they figure him out, but they've had more than a month to figure him out, and they haven't done it.
That's it. And let's say too, like, let's be fair to him. When he closed last year, when he was coming out of the bullpen and he was giving them those little spot starts, he looked solid. There was a whole reason why we came into this camp being like, okay, well, this guy is actually the Manoah insurance, and he actually could be pretty decent. He was the talk of spring training from the pitching staff.
But he was abysmal right out of the gate.
He was horrific, man. He was unplayable. It was, okay, well, this was stupid. I remember thinking he is now going to be my new reference point for any time someone's getting some hype in spring training to just pump the brakes on it and not believe anything. But here's what I like about it. You have those 4 starters in pen, but now you also have a little bit of insurance for Manoah, where you're looking at it and going, hey, now you really can take Manoah and Tiedemann as, well, maybes. You know, you don't need one of those guys to do something if Bowden Francis is actually a starter for you.
Yeah, and Yariel Rodriguez, he's more like his starts have vacillated a little bit more, but there's obviously something there.
There's something there, but I think he's a 5.
Yeah, I think he's a 5. And
I think he's a 5 where you're hoping to get 4 or 5 innings and then turn it over to the bullpen.
And who knows what Jake Bloss is, because he's had 2 of his worst starts of the year, like not just in the minor leagues, major leagues, all of it combined. 2 of his last 3 starts with Buffalo have been the 2 worst starts of his entire season. So that's concerning. But but
at least there's some like potential depth there. When we talked about how they have no pitching. Yeah, it's a lot of lottery tickets with those other 3 guys. But that's what I'm saying about the Francis part of the equation is all of a sudden you're not relying on one of those 2 lottery tickets or 3 lottery tickets to actually hit for you next year.
No, what you can do is this offseason go out and acquire another major league starter and say, okay, that's our 5-man rotation, and force our hand or injuries, and Rodriguez and Bloss, you guys are next man up. But I think you're absolutely, like the way I felt about David Schneider going into this year.
I do think you have 5 starters, because I think Yariel Rodriguez definitely starts next year as your 5th guy.
I don't know if it's definite, but I think it's possible. He's shown enough here, and especially if he continue to stretch out the arm and
you're right.
He can
if they
throw
sign somebody, then he's first guy out.
I think would be the most prudent move. But and maybe this is a bad example because of the way it's gone for David Schneider, but the way I felt about David Schneider going into this year, where it's like, okay, maybe he's not this, but you have to give him the opportunity to prove that he's not this to start this year, is the way I feel about Bowden Francis. He's in the rotation. It doesn't matter what spring training starts are so stupid anyways, but it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter who you sign. Bowden Francis needs to be in the rotation in 2025, and we got to see how long this can continue for.
All I know is I tweeted yesterday that he turned into Greg Maddux, and some guy replied, Greg Maddux did it with always under 100 pitches. I was like, yeah, thank you. It was my number one. Oh God, I'm back to tweeting about sports and like entering this ecosystem of just people doing.
It's
stuff.
just like there are the thing that is concerning. There's just like there's very few guys that make it work with that level of velocity, right?
That's
like the Kyle Hendricks. It's like he had a moment, right?
He had more than a moment. He had like 4 or 5 seasons of being really good. And then it fell apart. Massively.
Ken, you have to be so precise.
But I don't need Bowden Francis to be good for the next 7-8 years.
No, you need to be good for
if I'm the Blue Jays front office, I need 1 good year from you.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Next year is, I love how we're doing the same. The Leafs parallels are hilarious, but it really is. The next year is the all or nothing year. Because what's your sense today of the run it back number? Because to me, it feels like Ross is back and everybody's back.
Oh, I think everybody's back, including the manager. I think the general manager. The only
the
thing
Ross Atkins getting fired thing feels gone to me now.
The one thing that could, oh God, you're gonna make me bring up the take I had that I thought more people would enjoy when the Blue Jays were in Atlanta. 1 second though. So the one thing that could throw a wrench into this is if Mark Shapiro feels slighted in any way by not getting a contract extension and feeling like he has to prove himself as a lame duck president, considering all he's done outside of the baseball operations, because he's the president and he is in charge of that.
We're done with letting him hide behind that now.
Yeah, but I think he's obviously had people approach him for other job opportunities since he's been the president of the Toronto Blue Jays and rebuffed all of them. And his argument might be, yeah, okay, it hasn't gone well below me. I can fix it. But you trust me.
No, we talked about this. If he left on what was not the Blue Jays accord, like he left to pursue a different job.
Yeah, if he left, that could throw everything else in flux. But the way I see it right now, it's kind of nutso to offer him a contract extension.
It's awful to do that. Also, I'm not sure about how that works exactly. Like, how does that work? And if he's under contract here,
yeah,
so they'd have to like buy him out and so like
to fire him.
No. I'm saying
if he left,
I'm saying that unless he has an out clause, which I'm not aware of,
yeah, they would have
the Blue
to let
Jays
him
would have to let him go. And so, like, I'm not sure what the
I mean, inside baseball, they'd have to let him go. If he just got another job, he'd say, like, all right, just tear up my contract. You don't have to pay me anymore. Like, I'm leaving. He could leave of his own accord and just break his contract, right? But yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that he would be able to leave his contract and then go to another team that exact year.
What do you think of my
What's your take?
Not many people compared Connor McDavid to Alex Anthopoulos, but I managed to pull this off last week.
I do want to hear this. So actually, I asked you to tell me a couple things I missed, and you didn't do it. You didn't even try.
No, I forgot some of my takes. It's been so long.
You didn't even try. It's fine. I asked you. I was like, the segment is going to be Ben gives me 3 things that we need to talk about.
You didn't say 3 things.
Yeah, I did.
No, you didn't. No,
I
you
said
didn't.
one.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did.
No, you
I said 3 things.
Okay, this one thing is going to take up all the time that 3 things would take up.
No. I need to talk about the Leafs, but yeah, get to it. Get to it, because this is already bad.
All right, we did the thing last postseason with Connor McDavid. Hey, is it better or worse for the Leafs' chances of acquiring him if he wins the cup? And I think we all came to the conclusion that if he won a cup, that would
way better for him to come to the Leafs.
Yeah. Alex Anthopoulos is the only former executive of any of the Toronto North American pro sports teams to have gone elsewhere and won a championship.
Which is literally the #1 Canadian thing. Like, if you go to the States and have success, like, look at media here. Like, you go to the States and have success, and we're like, you've made it. You've got a position for life. There's nothing more validating to Canadians than a Canadian who goes down south and makes it. And our artists, whatever you say.
I'm sure there's nothing more validating for Alex Anthopoulos personally than to have the ultimate success that the guys that berated him on his way out could not accomplish.
Yep.
Can you imagine a scenario where it is just a complete blow up of the Blue Jays front office and Alex Anthopoulos sees the opportunity at a perfect moment in Braves history as well, because like some of the long-term contracts he signed to young guys has an all like Matt Olson's okay, but it's like not maybe the future of the franchise, and Michael Harris, but they've won a championship, and what Brave fan wouldn't view Alex Anthopoulos still in great stature, but for him to one final nail in the coffin to these guys who just ripped him for trading away all the incredible.
That's Connor McDavid parallel here.
Because he won the championship. He did it in Atlanta. Who would fault him?
This is a loose connection to Connor McDavid.
No, it's 100%.
This is a loose connection.
No, and he's returning home. He's returning. Yeah. It's a homecoming for Alex Anthopoulos. This is a clear connection.
Yeah, I mean, Connor McDavid was never berated by anybody in Toronto. Got fired from Toronto. Toronto wasn't like, couldn't we have McDavid? And they were like, no. What did he do? Like, stuck their nose. Get out of town! Get out of here! And he was like, he just went to Edmonton. Like, I guess I'll have to make my way over here. Like,
there would be no sports.
This parallel's trash, but I love that you tried, and that's the most important part. But I really like the Anthopoulos idea of them actually going out and trying to reacquire him. But if I was Anthopoulos, I actually think there would be nothing sweeter than telling the Jays no.
But it's not okay. So I don't fault the Blue Jays.
That's what my dream would be. My dream would become so successful that someone who slighted me, who wanted me back, I'd be able to be like, absolutely not.
I don't know if he views it as, and maybe I'm wrong here, but understanding the situation as I did, there was a last-second contract offer made to Alex Anthopoulos, right?
Can you work under Mark Shapiro thing?
No. Okay, maybe he would feel slighted because they went out and hired Mark Shapiro before the 2015 season. But who didn't think Alex was on his way out? That it was like, of course, he ran his...
That's irrelevant, though. You're supposed to even, like, this is the difference between the public and the media and what ownership is supposed to be, or your boss is supposed to be, and your boss is supposed to be the one that like shows the faith in you. And like by getting Shapiro, it was DOA.
It was not his job. I mean, he replaced Paul Beeston. Mark Shapiro did. And
Sure.
Here's what I can guarantee you: his qualm is more with Mark Shapiro than it is with the Toronto Blue Jays. Like he would enjoy.
I would guess he views them as one and the same.
And also, like he wins if like the Blue Jays come to him and acquiesce, like you win. It's all yours. The castle's yours.
But here's the other part of it. If you're Alex, you already have like the best thing, which is 2015 was by. It's not a World Series,
yes,
but in terms of memories for this city,
of course,
it has been. It's I would say Raptors 2019, and then it's Blue Jays 2015 in terms of the last decade and what's soon to be over a decade, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
That those are the two special memories. And if you're Alex Anthopoulos,
you don't want to tarnish that?
Why would you? What do you have to gain? Like you come back and then you win? How different is it than people loving the 2015 team? I think you have far more to lose. If he came back, how did we get here? If he came back and he blew it.
Yeah.
If he came back and it was just a disaster.
I mean, it can be more a disaster than not being in a playoff race. The Detroit Tigers are 3 games back of the final American League wild card.
But I'm just saying that if
we've been doing this for a decade, and there are no postseason wins.
He's already won here. He's a legend here. People love Alex Anthopoulos.
But he's taking this team at the nadir, right?
That's the worst time to take it.
No, it's not. What are you talking about? Because he could do a rebuild, sign Vlad long term, and still rebuild around him, but do the thing that Shapiro and Atkins can't do because they're pot committed, and they would be admitting that they are a failure. He could do the thing where it's a rebuild and start from scratch. He could do it. No, it's a brilliant idea.
Can I tell you something?
What?
I'm off of the rebuild. Like now that they didn't do the full teardown at the deadline thing, I just don't see the path for it. And I'm like, no, it's clearly going to be one more year and then potentially rebuild.
Yeah,
right?
I guess. I mean, that seems like and also like what is the value of Chris Bassett?
That's what I'm saying. You're going into the offseason, you're like, Kevin Gausman and Chris Bassett.
And Jose Barrios has been everything you would have expected him to be, except for the one season as a Blue Jay. But yeah, I think they're going to run it back. How seriously they're going to run it back is another question.
Okay. Can I do Leaf stuff now?
I guess.
Yeah?
Sure.
You guess?
Yeah, fine.
Is that all right? By you?
Sure.
So a few Leafs things happened in the last couple of days, and I'm going to expand on this a little bit more, probably with a guest either tomorrow or next week, but I kind of thought the coverage for the Robertson thing and the Pacioretty impending signing was a little strange because I saw a lot of like, hey, the Leafs have brought back Robertson, and Robertson really blew this. Like, he asked for a trade request, and nobody wanted him, and then he ends up signing for less than $1 million. Like, way to go, Robertson. Way to, like, Tree Living won, and everybody, cooler heads prevailed here. I don't think that, like, it's pretty clear that there's a domino that's coming here. Mm-hmm. So they're going to sign Pacioretty, and mostly people should look at that through, oh, yeah, you sign a guy to a PTO, and he's a veteran who's a lottery ticket, and you give him $1 million. Like, what are you really losing here? Because, right, he'll probably get $1 to $1.2 million, and it'll have some kind of like bonus-laden contract that's
what he made 2 last year with the Caps with a $2 million bonus,
which was actually a bad contract.
Yeah, he made $4 million last year to play like 40 games.
That's it. So I don't think the Leafs are going to do that. I think overall, when you're looking at this, like they signed Hakanpää yesterday. I'm hearing that he's probably going to start the year on IR. That he's not going to start healthy. He'll be a super mega hit if he's able to play games because he just obliterates people. His hit highlights are like as good as it gets. Being. As good as it gets. He will be far more popular than the other depth defensemen that the Leafs have had in recent vintages, like the Roman Polak.
Timmins?
No, he's a goner. But they might still have to figure out another defenseman because I don't see how Timmins gets in the fold. But either way, you look at the blue line right now, and if Hakanpää ends up happening, it looks great. But with the forward group, a couple things seem pretty clear to me right now. One is they don't really seem to want a path for Easton Cowan, which I like. Mm-hmm. I don't like the idea of him having to get rushed up to the Maple Leafs. If he shows up at camp and he's so dominant that they cannot turn their backs to him, he's obviously going to be on the team. He'll obviously get that same opportunity that we saw last year for Fraser Minton, where they'll give him, the 8-9 games, and then they'll make that decision later. But I do love that the pressure is off this kid. when the Leafs are in very big Stanley Cup mode, when they've already rushed prospects throughout their entire history of the program, when he's this young, when he's had this much success, I don't view it as the world's worst thing if he does end up having to go back to junior. I'm sorry, I just don't. I don't view it as like, oh, will he just go stagnant? No, he'll be fine. Yeah. He's a baby. He'll be okay if he continues to play high-level hockey and dominates it and rips it up. There's plenty of examples of guys that have done that. The path for him is a little blocked right now. But the Pacioretty signing, to me, you cannot view this in a vacuum. This is not like there's no such thing as a bad minor league deal. There is such a bad thing as signing Max Pacioretty to a contract and then losing a more capable NHL player from your roster. And I saw a lot of like, oh, well, now Kampf could be the odd man out. I don't think you can move David Kampf.
I mean, he has a full no move, I think.
I don't think it's a full no move, but the other part of it is David Kampf is the type of center that Berube is going to play more than his predecessor. He is also, he plays a position that the Leafs don't have a lot of depth at. No. They're not trading a centerman before the season, and I've seen some people go like, oh, well, Connor Dewar can do that job just as well. Yeah, like he might, but he has absolutely, unequivocally not proven that he is David Kampf from a centerman standpoint. They're not moving him. It comes down to, is this going to be Kelly Yarncroke? Also, the last thing I should say about Kampf, because of the money he makes, I don't really believe that he has any value. Like, I could see the Leafs having to trade something to get off of the David Kampf contract. Yarncroke or Nick Robertson is going to be gone. That's my guess. And it's far more likely, in my opinion, that it ends up being Nick Robertson. That they gave him that contract, that he's far more tradable, that it looks like they've kind of cooled things down and said, hey, you go to camp, you try to play with an opportunity, and if it doesn't look like you're going to be the guy, if you're not starting the year in the top 9, we'll do what we did with, oh, damn it, I forgot this guy's name. Who was it, the guy that they traded to Vancouver? Not last year, but before.
What, not Sam Lafferty?
No, not Sam Lafferty.
Mikheyev?
No. Oh, my God, I'm blanking. L name. Levo, Josh Levo.
Oh, God, Josh Levo.
Yeah, Levo. So, if you recall, they had that deal with Josh Levo, where it was, hey, the coaching staff doesn't really love you, but you're talented. And if you recall, Levo, similarly to Nick Robertson, had put up some numbers, but was a flawed player. And that's pretty much what Nick Robertson is, eh? Like, if he gets opportunities, he's going to score goals. He's a goal scorer. He can do it. But the rest of his game is pretty incomplete. He had some flashes last year where he was back-checking harder and he was trying, but he's pretty limited, man. He's not a beautiful skater. He's not good defensively. He's not going to win board battles for you. And it's pretty clear that that's the direction that this team is trying to go. They want more scoring depth. But when you sign Max Pacioretty, you have to look at that as a warning flag, a warning sign, a flare of something's happening here. Yeah. They're not going into this with 14 forwards. No. And I don't think Ryan Reeves is getting let go, which, I mean, probably logically that is the move to make out of all of this. But to me, this reeks of, hey, he's here, and if he and Nick Robertson are playing for jobs. I don't have a lot of faith in the Pacioretty thing. I really don't like it. If it was just like a real PTO, then I would be fine with it. But he's 36 years old. He's coming off 2 Achilles tears. He was already slow. He didn't score the last time that, and I know it was whatever shooting percentages that he ended up having.
But he didn't shoot very much either.
I know, but I just thought the Leafs we've done this. We've done this. The like
you didn't like the Joe Thornton experiment?
That's what I'm saying. Like the washed up old guys that used to be somebody. I don't need that anymore. I'd rather take the Nick Robertsons and roll the dice on younger players that might have a ceiling. I would be blown away if Max Pacioretty plays, 70 games for the Leafs this year and scores 20 goals. Like,
well, what would be an ideal situation if you could have a competition and feel like there's internal competition, but you can't take these guys into the regular season. That's the problem. And who cares about the preseason exhibition games that they have and the performance that they have, right? It would be great if you could just go into the seasons like, all right, you get a shot in the top 6. You get a shot alongside Austin Matthews. You get a shot alongside Austin Matthews, and may the better man win. Now, I mean, maybe injuries are going to take care of it, but yeah, it does feel like now all of a sudden they went from having a left-wing problem to like, okay, they got too many guys.
Well, the thing is, though, too, I don't feel like they have too many guys because I'm not sure Bobby McMahon can stay healthy. And he right now looks like he's put down in, I don't know, dark pencil. What was it?
Well, I mean, he was signed to the contract extension. Like you mean to be in the top 6 or to be?
No, that's what I'm saying. But it's like he's there. you have a lot of depth at left wing right now, but I think that's a good thing to have considering some of the names that are there from an injury standpoint and a longevity standpoint.
Yeah, but it's like a cap world, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just not going to be able to keep all those guys.
It's just, anyways, to me, all I'm saying here is that it feels like another domino is still set to fall. And the Pacioretty thing, to me, has far more potential to get worse than it does to be like, well, that was sort of a harmless depth signing, no big deal that ended up happening.
Well, but so you're saying that you believe in the ability for Nick Robertson to come back and haunt the Toronto Maple Leafs, like Josh Levo never did.
I wouldn't say haunt. I wouldn't say haunt, but I would say that if you were offering me one of those two players, Nick Robertson at 8.75, giving him an opportunity to play regular minutes, or Max Pacioretty at age 36 at $1.2 million, coming off 2 Achilles tears, and a former Montreal captain who, I wouldn't say is known for being Mr. Leader either. Like, at least with Thornton, you've got Matthews still talking about how much he loved living with him for 2 weeks, right? And Thornton's going to take Celebrini and just like live with him, I guess. That's going to be the move. He's going to do the Sid Mario thing, but with Joe Thornton and all his cups.
It's rude.
Yeah, that was a little rude. It was unnecessary. I'm still not over the Joe Thornton in the 24/7 series they did.
Well, and he got a shot in the top 6 out of the gates too.
Yeah, that's it. I don't. As of right now, I don't get it. I don't understand what Pacioretty is offering you at age 36 when he's a slow skater and he doesn't have the skill he used to have, and he's coming off of 2 injuries, and he might command or want a little bit more,
I think he had options. I mean, there were reports before this PTO was officialized that he was holding out for an NHL contract, and apparently there were more than one suitor for his services. Yeah,
do you know what I think the big appeal is for him?
What?
Power play.
Yeah.
That's the one where they're probably looking at it going.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Like, if you're going to give Nick Robertson a real opportunity, he has to play on power play too as well.
And that's why, to me, when I'm just putting the pieces together, it feels like him being in was actually a sign that the Robertson signing was more of a, it's actually easier to trade you now.
Yeah.
No one was ever going to give you an offer sheet.
What kind of value can he possibly have? Because
not little, but I'm saying it's not going to be a blockbuster trade.
Yeah,
it's going to be a situation where they go, we got to move some money out, and you're the money that we have to move out because you don't want to be here. And the coaching staff has assessed that they would rather have Max Pacioretty than you.
It's got to be more than him though, because he makes less than $1 million, and they're more than $1 million over the cap.
No, they'll like I said, I think Hakanpää will start on LTIR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is, I thought, a place that no team wanted to be to start the year, right? Because you accrue cap space if you're not on LTIR to start the year. So, yeah, that would be concerning.
My understanding is from talking to a couple of people that, he doesn't, I don't think that he's going to be ready to roll out of the gate. We'll see.
That makes sense considering he took half as much money as he thought he was getting on July 1st because they're like, your knees don't exist anymore.
Pretty much. That was actually kind of a funny, that was the way, it was Steve Simmons who broke that.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of starting to trickle up from the Leafs being like, no, we're totally confident that this is completely fine. And he went, okay, so sign him. And they were like, later. For less. Much later. For less.
Literally half. Like less than half. It was a reported $3 million 2-year deal, and he got $145 over 1 year.
Yeah. Anyways, to finish up the point is, I don't think that Nick Robertson will haunt the Leafs. I'm someone who is... I've been on Nick Robertson's side. I've been against Nick Robertson. I've done it all. Like, I really thought that...
Second most goals per 60 at 5-on-5 on the Toronto Maple Leafs last season.
I have... This is one of those ones where statistically you can always make those cases. I call it like Michael Mooring, where you can make the case statistically, but when you add other levels of context, it kind of falls apart pretty quick. I like Nick Robertson. I think he's an extremely hard worker. I think he's really intelligent. I think that he is desperate to prove himself, which is a good thing from a player. You want that from a player.
Absolutely.
But I just don't think he trusts this organization anymore. And Why would he, given the track record that he's seen so far? And everyone
you think he's been hard done by, really?
I don't think he's been hard done by, except for the one.
There was one
training camp, where he was on fire.
But he was the only guy that was waivers
and they
exempt.
went with Nick Malgin. But it was like for Malgin, Dennis Malgin, and it was like okay. And then a couple weeks later, Malgin's gone, and you're like,
I know. And they did call him up, right? And he had the big game against his brother in Dallas.
Sure, but I'm saying that you're an athlete. You want to feel like it's a meritocracy. And when you know you're better than Dennis freaking Malgin and the GM goes back to the well on the same guy and he's like, I love Dennis Malgin. I can't get enough Malgin. Let me trade more future NHL players for Dennis Malgin. It probably leaves you with a little bit of a burr in your bonnet, and it's hard to shake that. And it appears that he hasn't shaken it. And he's putting it out there for a while. And no, I think the trade request is a little silly when it's guys who don't have a lot of leverage and clearly are not extremely coveted around the league. Like, if Nick Robertson had any value, I think he actually would have been traded. Tree Living's handled it well by saying all the right things. The Leafs have handled it well from an optics standpoint, good, because they pay $1 billion in PR, so they should be able to handle stuff like this well, instead of have it be a nightmare. But they did. They handled it well, and now the waters are a little calm, and I think it gives them some breathing room to figure out what the actual step is going to be. But, the Pacioretty signing to me is no bueno. I'm just going on record saying that I don't think that this is going to be one where when the Leafs hoist the Stanley Cup, they're like, hand it to Pacioretty next.
But I mean, history would suggest that's correct. I can't wait for Nick Robertson to have a
also,
really
I don't
good...
like a former prominent Hab on the team like this.
Oh, I thought you might enjoy that.
Nah, I hate it.
Although, I mean, the problem is that it's like Hab fans don't exactly have like spectacular memories.
I know that's the thing
Max
is they
Pacioretty.
don't like him and I don't like him.
They were ecstatic at the return in trade to Vegas where they got their current captain. Like, it's like, okay, great. Good luck with Max Pacioretty. That's devastating to us. No, I can't wait for Nick Robertson to have a really good month and a half or 2 months, whatever William Nylander had last year, and for Brad Treliving to offer him like an 8-year extension with all the no trade clauses for everybody.
That's not happening with him. That's happening with Marner.
Is there a number for Marner where you would do it without even seeing the postseason? Like, what if it's the Nylander?
I'm not an idiot.
Okay, Nylander. So he's just like, give me the slight little raise. I'll make as much as Nylander, 11.5.
That's too
So
high.
it's literally no raise then.
Yeah,
or whatever. He's what, like a
dude,
couple.
The Marner group is doing
11?
a great job with the getting Nathan McKinnon to go out there and say you're the best. Like, this stuff is outrageous.
Did you read the part of the Nathan McKinnon quote that was like, I feel sorry for the Maple Leafs. I root for them. Like that. There's nothing more pathetic than that.
It is. If hardcore listeners of the show are going to remember that one of my college roommates, he's a huge New York Jets fan, and I had him on after Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles to start last season. I had him on in the podcast only section, and I asked my buddy Sean. I went I asked him how he was feeling. We were going over it, and I went, it's gotten to the worst place because when we were in college, and we would chirp each other relentlessly. I actually have to check myself, and you know this, because we both do it where we chirp it out of love constantly. But sometimes I don't turn that off with the wrong people, who don't know me well enough, and I'll make a joke at their expense or I'll make fun of their team.
Jerk.
And they're like, wow, what a jerk making fun of my team when they're horrible. And I'm like, no, that's part of the anyways. We're very much like that. Strong hate for each other's football teams. Competing over 2 screens in our college house for, 4 different teams. It had gotten to the point where I was like, man, I'm rooting for the Jets. And he was like, that's the worst place to be.
Oh, it's horrible.
Like, you saying that you want my team to do well is a true sign of... that's your friend coming over and seeing your house and being like, at the end of the night, having a drink, be like, hey, man, can I talk to you a second? Like, hey, if you need money, you could call me.
I play a golf match with my dad twice a week, and I've been playing poorly recently, and then he starts being like, it's early. I'm like, literally, I won't play with you if you keep doing that. I literally won't. Like, I can't. You need to shut up. Like, I'm not a child.
Yeah. No, that's really bad. Yeah, you're 40, and your dad's like, keep your head up, so you do it. Like, oh, no. Oh, yeah, good, really overemphasizing when you hit a good ball.
God, there's nothing worse.
No, that's a nightmare. That makes me feel like heebie-jeebies. Yeah. I gotta when your foot goes numb and you want to stomp your foot to get rid of it. It's like, that's how I feel now after listening to you say that your dad did that. Okay, so a couple things. I did Hungary, I did Croatia, I did Germany. I was gone for 22 days. It was life-changing. It was incredible. I actually can't even pick which one of the destinations was my favorite because they were all so different. I was pretty blown away by Budapest though, just in terms of how cool it was and how comfortable I felt in the city. I think that their culture is cool. I didn't feel like I was getting ripped off. That's my only thing with Croatia was the beaches were incredible. The views and the scenes. It's like, all these ancient Roman palaces that are still there with these like gorgeous, unbelievable beaches that you'd think like, wait, where am I in the world? Like, how is this 42 degrees and I'm on a beautiful beach? A lot of rocky beaches, but a couple sandy beaches. But in Croatia, you feel a little, it's easier to get gouged.
You feel it's more touristy.
20% of their GDP derives from tourism.
People should understand for context as well. This is the first time you've ever been to Europe in
your
your life.
No, that's it. Yeah, my whole life. So their GDP, 20% is tourism based. And so when you're staying in these places, and I'm sure like, you do the hardcore, like Anthony Bourdain goes out in the, like I'm sure. But the places that I was staying and the places that I was going, there was a lot of just every meal you're like, all right, so this is also 20 euros for this plate. Like, okay, this doesn't look very good. Like, it just sort of looks like a normal.
This is just a Bubba Gump shrimp company.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So, also, it was kind of fun to try to always be doing the conversions in my head and the way that I went in terms of the money, trying to justify it, where I was like, at first, I was like, oh, that's too much money. No. And then by the end of the trip, I'm like, that's only this? Like, that's pretty much 36 Canadian dollars. Like, just completely ended up flipping the opposite way. But, and then Germany is just, my biggest takeaway from Germany, honestly, like being in Berlin, other than I did a ton of World War II history stuff, did a bunch of tours. I was just a very much like World War II geek in Berlin. I just did tour after tour after, my brother and I just like, different spot, different museum, different place to read, like the entire time. I actually thought he was going to kill me at one point because I was like not letting him eat food because I was like, now we're going to go to the Topography of Terror and like look at the Gestapo Museum. And he was like, like I want to eat food and like see beer hall.
Yeah, there's plenty of time to eat food.
There was. And we did that a lot. But my biggest takeaway from Berlin is it is a city of almost 4 million people. We actually drove around quite a bit. Guess how many times we hit like a major traffic jam?
5
Zero.
times. Oh.
0 is the answer. Same thing with Munich, where, almost, I think it's 1.5 million people. Guess how many times we hit a big traffic jam?
100.
We were going to the airport in rush hour, and the cars are just moving along the Autobahn, which was cool to
imagine.
It was cool to be in an Uber.
Oh, they didn't have one lane closed off for a number of years?
But, dude, it's way better even than the one lane closure.
Yeah, of course.
Like this city is
it's not. Well, that's what makes the one lane closure at the Gardner so hilarious.
Yeah,
it's like we weren't living the lap of luxury
from a place of we were already working from a place of poverty. It was just insane to watch how people drive, how people get around. The lack of congestion, and I'm sure like someone from there would go like, okay, well, there's other days, and I would go, yeah, I'm sure like there is, but it's just nothing like here. And I kept asking every driver, like, you ever get stuck in traffic? They're like, yeah, like it was a few minutes. And I'm just like, how is this possible? And it's because they have an amazing rail system. They've got an incredible tram. They've got incredible subway systems. They go everywhere. They're easy to figure out. They're easy to get on. They're reasonably priced. People actually use them. It's not just cramped streetcars and crap buses. But yeah, I think that we really just gotta start from scratch. We gotta get rid of everything here. We gotta go again. We gotta start from the beginning when it comes to our transportation, because this is just not the rest of the way the world lives. The only place that I saw like this was when you're trying to drive into Croatia through these like narrow streets into the popular castle districts, like the downtown districts, because they're not made for more than one, like, I don't know, chariot. It's not.
European cars, they have a lot of small cars too, like a lot of smart cars I found, at least in London, especially.
We had an Alfa Romeo. It was
at
actually nice.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was very nice. It was a surprise too. We rental car company. And we're like, ooh, ended up with Alfa Romeo. But the driving through those Croatian roads, those mountainous roads, a little spooky at times. It was a little spooky, scary. I was like, oh, this is really intense. Here's what I love also about Europe. Tipping starts at 5%. 10% is viewed as solid. A lot of the locals don't do it at all.
Yeah, of course. No, it's the greatest thing in the world, in that, Europeans can travel the world and not tip. And, the servers are probably not pleased, but they're like, I guess that's their culture. There's no tipping.
They do charge ports better. Fitting in the European charge port is far better than ours. It's like fits in perfectly. Like they never shake around. Like there's different charge ports for your phone, like plugins.
Like in the airport?
No, plugins. Like when you go to Europe, they have a different plug.
Yeah.
And it's way better than ours.
Oh, wait.
It just fits right in.
You're talking about the outlet?
Yeah, outlet. It's way better.
No,
we should have just. Why did we not just join them on this? It's so much better than ours.
Oh, did you have an adapter?
Yeah, of course I had to have an adapter. Everyone got the adapter, and I'm saying we were clowns. Why did we clown it up and not just go with their? It's a little perfect. It's a perfect circle. It fits inside the wall, like it's got like a little thing. It's just a little puzzle piece. It goes right in.
Flips up, right? Like
no, there's no flip. There's no. Well, yeah, some have covers, some don't. But it just fits in. It doesn't wiggle. Like it's not like a crappy little loose. How many people have had a loose outlet in their house? There's no such thing as a loose outlet in Germany or in Europe. It's not possible. They're doing it well. Here's what they're not doing well. Here's what they're not doing well, and here's what I will be doing. Here's what I will be doing in terms of my business model, so that I can move there, so that I can have a career that actually allows me to, move outside of this country. One, pillows and bedding are not done well there. Like the amount of Airbnbs I showed up at where it was like, it's like what you would view as like throw pillows. And I stayed at nice places. Like I spent some bucks on this trip. Okay. They'd be like, here's your one tiny little blanket and here's your couple of throw pillows. And I went, surely this is like not, and it was every one of these cities, every single one of them. They do bedding poorly, like extremely poorly. You go to a hotel, they've got it figured out because they're like, okay, these North Americans want this. But you go to an Airbnb, someone's actually house, they're doing bedding all wrong.
Is it no AC? Is that part of it?
That's another one of my things that we got to figure out. We got to get you guys on some HVACs. If you want to start an HVAC company, this is the place to do it. Is anyone, like you're in Croatia, you're in 42-degree heat. You gotta have more than just like going to the beach. The beach is great. Don't get me wrong. Like it's beautiful women. It's gorgeous water. It's the clearest water I've ever seen in my entire life. I actually figured out like, oh, this is why people snorkel. Oh, I get this now. Why scuba diving is a thing. But they got to figure out the HVAC. And then the last thing they need to do is, I'm not even an iced coffee guy, but they need to they don't have it. They don't do it.
They don't do iced coffee at all?
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was awesome. It was really great. We need also more sports bars, American sports bars there. Because when we were trying to watch NFL, it was tough to find places that would be open all night.
Morning?
Yeah, and they should have more of that. Because one of the highlights of my trip was watching NFL in Munich at a packed sports bar that was international waters with like a million different people that were all fans of different like creeds. It was incredible.
We do Premier League bars here that are open at 7 in the morning.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sense. So we should be doing that more. Anyway, but how do you give it when you give Germany the Panthers and who is it, Giants? Yeah, it's tough. Anyways, thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.